Wandering with purpose. I know probably many of you are familiar with the brand, the Life is Good branding, and they have on one of their shirts and some of their other things, coffee cups. Not all who wander are lost. And I want to let this reflection time be an exploration in one direction with that idea that wandering is in part of the spiritual path. That if you are opening to yourself as a mystic, as a contemplative, as someone who's awakening into union with God or fullness with self, if you identify with any of that, then there will always be some element along your path that involves wandering, W-A-N-D-E-R. Wandering can be 100% of the time, but the wandering. And we look back at historical figures and can find that there are certain figures that seem to wander all their lives, like sadhus, that they're wandering holy people. And then we come across at other times mystics and individuals that we might find inspiration from that have moments of wandering. So let me read this phrase of Jesus, or this story of Jesus, not his phrase. Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, left the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them, he was hungry. A lot of symbolism there, and I'll point to a couple things, not as the point of focus for this talk, but just to set the context. So we know that the number 40 has often been used in inspired texts, Hebrew, Christian, and others, and connotes an intense time of focus that is stepping into the unknown. So you get the wilderness. The desert is another one. We have, when the Israelites escaped from slavery, they wandered for what? 40 years. In what? The desert. So we have the use of this phrase to point to the fact that the group of people or the individual are stepping into the unknown. And 40 is a longer period of time, which to me then seems to say they're stepping in wholeheartedly for the duration until the reason that they're there is clear and the time is complete. The time is complete. That's an important point that applies for all of us. So this wandering that Jesus set off into the desert or into the wilderness. But you find that there is a little phrase right before this action step that cannot be overlooked, and that is this: he was full of the Holy Spirit. All of us in our path will have moments of deep recognition, deep insight, deep movement and stirring that fills us. And as a result of being filled, we find ourselves taking an action step that maybe we didn't plan on before. Now, when we're in a place in our personal journey where we're doing the dance, we're doing the wrestling, like we're feeling a call, but we're not 100% feeling it, and we're seeing the goodness of where we are and the goodness of where we could be, and we're in process around that. That's no less significant. What we're talking about here is not that. We are talking about the moments when, bam, the fullness is there in such a way that you would even either have to dramatically resist the current rushing through you, or you go with it, or dramatically disassociate with that current or go with it, because you're brought into the alignment, with the fullness of the Spirit. And look what happens as Jesus is full of Spirit. It's not very gratifying according to our Western way of going about goals. He's full of the Spirit, and he doesn't say, okay, wow, I better get into active ministry to be of service to people, to learn what it means to know God. It's not what he's quoted to say. In fact, he's not quoted to say anything at that point, which to me again points to the reality that when we are hit, when we are inspired, when we are touched on that level, and oftentimes we can have years of preparation that bring us to that level unknown to us. When we are moved there, it's a wordless ascent. It is a bam. You don't need to talk about it. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to work out what you're going to do. You don't need to work out whether you're going to do it or not. There is the thrust of the fullness of your own being, and you step forward into the unknown. Now, sometimes this fullness of Spirit does have direct clarity on the practical next steps. But more often than not, it's great clarity of letting go into the unknown. I remember when I received the insight, the fullness of Spirit insight to build the monastery in Texas. That was one of those moments that the end goal was clear as day. However, my ascent in the fullness of Spirit, I didn't understand that I was actually going to spearhead the project. My ascent was the clarity of what was going to happen and my 100% on board. It was only after probably about 5 months or so, I realized, oh, wow, I'm being guided to be the one that actually is in the front of this project. And it can happen that way as well. But most of the time, it is that stepping into the unknown. I'll give you some very loose examples, very loose. You've got the story of Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse and the movie version as well. And in this, you've got an individual that's brimming with a longing that is coming from the fullness of Spirit and keeps plunging into what is not the answer, but is so clear on the closeness of the call that he's able to let go as he steps forward into one lifestyle, lets it go because it falls short, steps into another, lets go because it falls short. You've got the beloved of Rumi that is so little known, Shams. And this is a wandering holy man. And as far as the historical counts that we've got, he simply wanders. And wherever he goes, where there's receptivity, that person awakens. And Rumi was one of those people. The encounter with Shams was the moment that Rumi claims was his deepest awakening. You've got simple, practical things that happen. For instance, Mother Teresa being called in India to join her community, and in her fullness of Spirit to find that the way her community lived didn't have a place for where she was being inspired. Now, it's a longer story and a little bit more detailed than that. But if you look at it from a Spirit perspective, she was called to do something, to serve the poor in the way that she did. And in her knowing and unknowing in answering that call, what she was a part of didn't fit to carry that out. And she ended up actually even being labeled as narcissistic for a while. So we are taken as we give our yeses to bearing the brunt of ignorance and confusion and even judgment, such as, who is this crazy person? That's bound to happen. So this wondering, I could go on and on about the examples of wondering. Part of being open to new life is having a moment to reflect upon, am I wondering right now? Are there elements within my own evolution, within my own personal development? Are there elements that have stepped into or needing to step into the unknown? Am I being niggled by spirit? What predates Jesus heading off into the wilderness or the desert, as far as we understand, is a baptism he received by John the Baptist, where he heard a very simple phrase that is recorded. So either he told someone or somebody else heard it as well, or it simply points to the story as a symbolic moment. In the phrase he heard, "You are my beloved, in whom I am well pleased." So that consecration of words that came with the water in the moment of that baptism filled his cup in such a way that he was impelled to just leave everything and be in the desert for as long as he was meant to be. We don't have an accurate record to know, did he plan on a certain amount of time? Did he have certain goals? We only have that he was full of spirit and it impelled him. It impelled him into the desert. It impelled him into leaving everything, even possibly leaving, at that point, supposedly, he had begun to be a little bit known for some of his gifts, supposedly. So these are all conjectures, but something was brewing and stirring in him that he left as well. So even when we're in motion, acting on the gifts that have been given us, the service that's been given us, are we free enough to pivot and shift in the moment to the times of wandering? In today's world, at least with the many, many people I've worked with, and I can attest to this as well as a stressor, there is a lot of pressure on establishing what is considered physical forms of security and setting up goals, right? You have retirement goals, you have career goals, you have saving goals, you have goals towards possession, goals towards equity, you have goals towards having good health care, all of these goals. And in systems that are constantly breaking down, constantly, because we still haven't hit the nail on the head with what works for everybody, we lay up a lot of store, a lot of emotion, a lot of focus upon what are very tenuous structures. They may appear really solid, like Social Security, but they are also very tenuous, very tenuous. They're dependent upon so many other factors staying in place that the amount of pressure we put upon ourselves to be part of the entire system maybe could build levels of stress that can obscure the movement of spirit. This doesn't mean to abandon all of those. It invites us to hold them lightly for what they are. Oh, this seems to be stable. I did seminary training and my master's work in a remarkable institution, the Washington Theological Union. Remarkable. My professors across the board, I would say almost all of them, were so brilliant that they were deeply spiritually mature, coupled with deeply theologically developed and intelligent. And it was a golden age for myself. And I've talked with my colleagues and my fellow graduates. I mean, it was juicy. It was juicy, the formation we had. I thought I would be, as an alumni, I thought I would be participating in alumni things, ending up giving money to support this great organization, finding certain collegial benefits happening over the years, both giving and receiving. I thought, I didn't lay up store in it, but it was a natural thought that made a lot of sense. Well, upon graduating, myself and many of us set out in our ministries, only to find that many of us find ourselves being of service in ways we never thought we would. What does that mean? Well, I was banned by the bishop in my area for influence, for largely gender, and a few other things as well, even though the service I was offering was really at the service of the experience of Christ. And many of my fellow students are either no longer Catholic, though still value that deeply formative time, are off in numerous directions, doing things they never thought they would have done. And on top of it, because of the progressive nature of my seminary, it is now closed. So we don't even have alumni connections. So it was reasonable, given the solidity of the 6 religious orders that founded that seminary and graduate school, it was understandable that I would assume it would be around for a while. I saw it as so vital. Now, I didn't shore up my life choices upon it being there, but it's an example of when something even appears very solid, may not be as solid as we think. So we want to hold our choices around the physicality of our life and stability. We want to hold them with integrity and skillfulness and devotion, but also with lightness. Also with lightness. So that if something does shift or change, our security wasn't banked only on that. So wandering as part of the spiritual path is a great quality to cultivate and welcome. In fact, and we'll move into our meditation after this, I'd like to give an optional homework exercise. What if you chose, you may already do this, which would be fantastic. What if you chose one day a week, or a half a day a week, or one day a month, or some set commitment where that entire time period you were going to open yourself to spirit and move and wander through your day just impelled by that. And if you didn't feel connected or know, then simply be there in that and see what magic it works. See how it can tie you into that beautiful childlike curiosity that so often gets buried under the stressors of life. All right. So opening up in our meditation to this taking deeper root within us, we are going to do a third eye meditation, and we are going to combine it with a mudra and a 3-syllable chant. It's a Sanskrit chant. So the mudra, and I'm not going to get into mudras, but if you have ever noticed when you have energy exchange, even like if you touch somebody's hand, there are energy currents running through everything. And mudras are sophisticated ways of harnessing certain energies within ourselves. That's all I want to say about that. And this mudra is going to be like this. You're going to take this middle finger and you're going to loop it here. And then you're going to let all other 3 fingers touch on the second knuckle. And you're going to let the thumbs touch. That's it. It's going to look like a little, kind of like a triangle TP sitting on a box. Okay, so this finger's touched, this finger's touched, and the other 3 knuckles are in like this. Great. And with the 3 syllables, I'm going to actually read a translation that I like. The 3 syllables are super easy. They are, let me open it up. Im, Chaim, Shreim. So Im, E-E-M, engages the guidance of the divine. Chaim brings awareness to the highest truth. And Shreim, it's a seed mantra, which means it contains in that one syllable the fullness of what? Of the experience of the Hindu goddess Lakshmi, which is the goddess of abundance and prosperity. So what we're doing, this is a third eye meditation we're going to do, is we're going to do the mudra, and then we're going to tone those 3 syllables, Im, Chrim, Shrim, opening up this chakra right here so that our understanding, our grasp of these deeper truths may be enlivened within us, may take root within us, and that we may find ourselves operating from them. So let me say just a little bit about the third eye. It's the Ajna chakra in the chakra body system. And it's responsible for seeing things as they truly are, of seeing the self and the outer world as being situated in the larger reality of the cosmos. It also allows us to have a direct experience of the interconnectedness of everything so that we can be more free of our self concerns because we are experiencing ourselves as part of the whole. So that's pretty powerful, isn't it? All right, let's jump into the toning. And so let me invite you to do the mudra first. So you're going to bring that middle finger together. You're going to curl the other three fingers down. You can do it in any order you want. There's no right or wrong. And bring the thumb together. And when I invite you to close your eyes, when we do start to tone, we're simply going to tone Im, Chrim, Shrim. And you'll fall into it with me as we're doing it. But we'll have a moment or two of silence so that you can harness your own intentions with the reflection that's here, and so that I can harness my intentions too. So I invite you to close your eyes and breathe. Form your intentions clear to open up to the wandering quality of your spiritual life. And invite in a breath. Im, Chrim, Shrim. Continue at this pace. Im, Chrim, Shrim. 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 Let me take a moment in silence, letting the mantra sound within us. And we invite in a breath. Im, Chrim, Shrim. 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 Im Chim Shrim. Im Chim Shrim. Im Chim Shrim. Move into silence once again. And invite in a breath. Im Chim Shrim. 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 And bring your hands to relax upon your lap, sitting still quiet in the sounding silence within you. And as we bring this meditation to a close, bring the palms together in front of your third eye and bow in the silence from this place of deep insight. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Blessings, my friends.